$500,000. On paper, that sounds like made it money. So why do so many people who hit that number still lie awake at night wondering if it's actually enough? Here's the honest answer. $500,000 can absolutely support a comfortable retirement, but only if you understand what that number actually translates into, month by month, year by year. A lot of people picture a lump sum sitting in an account and imagine spending it however they like. That's not how it works, and misunderstanding this is one of the most common reasons people either overspend too early or, just as often, underspend out of fear when they don't need to. So ask yourself right now, if you had $500,000 saved today, do you know exactly how much that would give you to spend per month for the rest of your life? Most people don't. They know the total, but not the paycheck it creates, and that's the number that actually matters. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what $500,000 really means in practical terms, how it turns into monthly income, what taxes and inflation do to it, how Social Security fits into the picture, and what actually changes that number up or down. By the end, you won't just have a bigger number in your head, you'll have a clearer picture of your real retirement paycheck. Quick note before we start, every situation is different. Your age, your health, where you live, and your other savings all matter. Think of this as a framework for understanding your money, not personalized advice. Let's get into it.
Point 1. $500,000 is not a paycheck. It's a machine that makes a paycheck. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Many financial planners use a guideline called the 4% rule as a starting point. It suggests withdrawing about 4% of your savings in year 1 of retirement, then adjusting that amount for inflation each year after. Applied to $500,000, that's about $20,000 a year, or roughly $1,650 a month, before taxes. For a lot of people, seeing that number for the first time is a gut punch. $500,000 sounded like plenty, but $1,650 a month on its own isn't going to cover much. Imagine Carol, 58, who's been diligently saving and just crossed $500,000 in her 401k. She pictured retiring at 62 and living comfortably off her savings alone. When she ran the math, she realized her account alone would give her under $1,700 a month, not nearly enough to replace her current paycheck. That reality check wasn't bad news, though. It was useful news because it came early enough for her to adjust. So today's action step: pull up your actual balance and multiply it by 4%, then divide by 12. That's your rough monthly number from savings alone. It takes 30 seconds, and it will change how you think about the rest of this video. Point 2. $500,000 rarely stands alone. Social Security is doing more of the work than people realize. This is where the picture usually gets better. Most people aren't relying on savings by themselves. The average Social Security retirement benefit is currently in the neighborhood of $1,900 to $2,000 a month, though yours could be higher or lower depending on your earnings history and when you claim it. Add that to the $1,650 from Carol's example, and suddenly you're looking at roughly $3,500 a month in combined income, a very different picture than $1,650 alone. Think of it like two pipes filling the same bucket. Savings is one pipe, Social Security is the other. Most retirement stress comes from people only looking at one pipe and assuming that's their whole water supply. Action step: log into your Social Security account online and check your estimated benefit at different claiming ages, 62, 67, and 70. That range alone can shift your monthly income by hundreds of dollars, and it costs you nothing to look. If this combined number surprised you, one way or the other, drop a comment with your age. I want to see how many of us are doing this math for the first time.
Point 3. Taxes take a bite before the money ever reaches your pocket. Here's something that trips people up. If your $500,000 is sitting in a traditional 401k or IRA, that money hasn't been taxed yet. Every withdrawal counts as income, and depending on your tax bracket, you could lose a meaningful chunk of it to federal and possibly state taxes. So that's $1,650 a month from the 4% rule. The amount you actually get to spend could be closer to $1,300 to $1,450, depending on your bracket and where you live. Roth accounts work differently. Withdrawals are typically tax-free, which is why many planners suggest having a mix of both if you can. Action step: check whether your retirement savings are in a traditional account, a Roth account, or both. If you genuinely don't know, that's completely normal. Call your plan provider this week and simply ask. Point 4. Inflation quietly shrinks what $500,000 can buy over time. This is the one people forget because it's invisible year to year. At just 3% average inflation, prices roughly double every 24 years. That means the $500,000 that feels comfortable at 62 needs to stretch to cover prices that could be dramatically higher by 86. This is exactly why the 4% rule includes an inflation adjustment. The idea is your withdrawals should rise a little each year just to keep pace with the cost of living, not to spend more. Let's go back to Carol. She's 58, hoping to retire at 62 and live into her late 80s. That's roughly 25 years of retirement. If she only ever withdrew a flat $1,650 a month with no inflation adjustment, that same amount would buy noticeably less by the time she's 80. But if she builds inflation-adjusted withdrawals into her plan from day one, her spending power stays much more stable over time. Same $500,000, very different outcome, just from planning for inflation instead of ignoring it. Action step. When you picture your retirement budget, don't picture today's prices. Add a rough cushion. Even mentally bumping your expected costs up 20 to 30% for a future you helps avoid an unpleasant surprise a decade from now. Pause for a second and think about how long your retirement might actually last. 20 years, 25, maybe 30? I'll wait. That number changes everything about how $500,000 should be used.
Point 5. Healthcare costs are one of the biggest wildcards. Fidelity's widely cited estimate puts healthcare costs for an average 65-year-old couple in retirement at around $300,000 over their lifetime, and that's often not counting long-term care. Out of a $500,000 total, that's a significant chunk. This doesn't mean disaster. It means healthcare needs its own line item in your thinking, not something you figure out later. Medicare covers a lot, but not everything. Premiums, supplemental coverage, dental, and prescriptions all add up. Action step: if you're within a few years of 65, spend 20 minutes researching what Medicare does and doesn't cover, and whether a supplemental plan makes sense for you. Small research now saves real money later. Point 6. Where you live can make $500,000 feel like $300,000 or like $800,000. The exact same nest egg goes much further in a lower cost of living area than in an expensive city or coastal region. Housing costs alone can vary by 2 or 3 times depending on location, and that single factor often has more impact on your retirement comfort than almost anything else on this list. Action step: if you're open to relocating, even partially, think smaller home, different state, or lower cost area, research cost of living comparisons for 2 or 3 places you'd actually consider living. It's one of the few retirement levers you have real control over. Bringing it together. So what does $500,000 really mean? On its own, it's a modest monthly paycheck. Combined with Social Security, adjusted for taxes and inflation, and paired with a realistic view of healthcare and location, it can absolutely support a stable, comfortable retirement for many people. It just needs to be understood clearly, not just admired as a lump sum. If you want to know exactly how to calculate your own personal retirement number step by step, watch the video I've linked next. It walks you through the exact process in about 10 minutes. And if this kind of clear, no-hype breakdown is helpful to you, subscribing means you won't miss the next one. You've done the hard part already by saving. Now let's make sure that money works as hard as you did.